Jesse Bering's The Belief Instinct, The Psychology of Souls, Destiny, and the Meaning of Life delves deep into why humans are compelled to believe in things that go beyond physical reality, souls, gods, karma, fate, and argues that these beliefs stem not from cultural traditions or philosophical reasoning, but from cognitive mechanisms shaped by evolution. At its core, the book explores how our uniquely human theory of mind, the capacity to attribute mental states to ourselves and others, gives rise to spiritual and religious thought almost inevitably. Bering starts with the observation that humans are hypermentalizers. We see intentions and minds everywhere. This psychological habit is not a flaw but a feature of our social intelligence. From a young age, we interpret the world through the lens of agency. We assume others have beliefs, desires, and intentions. This is crucial for social interaction and cooperation, but it also has an unintended consequence. It predisposes us to see hidden minds where there are none, such as spirits, gods, or the universe itself as a conscious force. This tendency is especially pronounced in how we deal with death. Bering explores how even very young children struggle to accept that death is the end of conscious experience. Experiments show that children often believe that a dead person still knows things or feels emotions. Adults, too, frequently retain a sense of continued mental presence after someone dies. This, Bering argues, reveals that our belief in the afterlife is not just taught, it arises naturally from our cognitive architecture. He links these beliefs to what he calls the existential theory of mind, our inclination to assume that there is meaning or purpose behind our personal existence and experiences. We don't just think others have minds, we think the universe does, too. This leads us to see signs, interpret coincidences as fate, and assume moral outcomes are deserved. These beliefs, while scientifically unjustifiable, serve a powerful psychological function. They help us cope with uncertainty, injustice, and the fear of oblivion. Bering is careful not to ridicule belief. Instead, he shows empathy for the deeply human need to find meaning. At the same time, he challenges readers to confront the illusions of our evolved psychology. He draws on evolutionary biology, developmental psychology, and cognitive science to show how our brains evolved in a context where over-attributing agency could have been more beneficial than under-attributing it. In other words, mistaking a shadow for a predator was safer than missing a real threat. He also highlights the moral consequences of belief. When people believe they are being watched by a god or supernatural force, they tend to behave more ethically. Even subtle cues, like eyes on a poster, can reduce cheating or dishonesty. Bering suggests that belief in supernatural surveillance may have been naturally selected as a social adhesive in early human groups. However, as societies evolve and religion becomes increasingly questioned, this built-in mechanism becomes a source of tension. We still feel watched or judged even in a secular world. This spooky residue of our cognitive design doesn't disappear with rational thought. Instead, it continues to influence our feelings about guilt, shame, and justice, often below the surface of conscious awareness. Bering argues that understanding this mechanism can help us reclaim control over our beliefs and behaviors. He also tackles the idea of a purposeful universe, why we instinctively ask why things happen, not just how. This teleological thinking makes us assume that events happen for a reason, not just because of causes. It's why people often interpret random tragedies as personal punishments or lessons. Bering explains that while this kind of thinking is misleading, it is deeply embedded in our psychology and very difficult to unlearn, even for atheists or scientists. Bering brings a personal touch to the book by openly discussing his own experiences as a gay man grappling with religious judgment. He reveals how the fear of divine disapproval haunted him, even long after he consciously rejected those beliefs. This vulnerability reinforces his central claim: beliefs are not entirely under our rational control. They are tangled up with emotion, identity, and subconscious processing. Understanding their origins doesn't immediately free us from their influence. Despite his scientific stance, Bering does not argue for the eradication of belief. Instead, he suggests that recognizing the origins of our spiritual instincts can make us more compassionate and self-aware. We might not be able to silence the internal narrator that seeks divine meaning, but we can learn to question it. Rather than dismissing belief as foolish, he encourages readers to see it as the result of an elegant, if flawed, cognitive system designed to navigate a complex social world. He offers a compelling perspective on religion as a byproduct, not an adaptation. That is, rather than religion being an evolved trait in itself, it emerged incidentally from our evolved capacity for theory of mind. Just as moths evolved to navigate by moonlight but can be tricked by street lamps, our minds evolved to track other people's thoughts and intentions but end up projecting minds onto the cosmos. Religion, then, is an evolutionary accident, but a persistent one. Bering also reflects on the existential implications of disbelief. If our sense of meaning is a cognitive illusion, does that mean life has no value? He argues not at all. In fact, recognizing the source of our beliefs can be liberating. It allows us to craft our own meaning with honesty and agency. It's precisely because there's no cosmic script that our choices become so powerful. Meaning isn't given, it's made. By the end of the book, Bering doesn't offer a conclusive answer to life's big questions: what happens after death, whether there's a higher power, but he equips readers with the tools to better understand why we ask those questions, and why the answers matter so much to us emotionally. He doesn't preach skepticism but offers it as a gentle, thoughtful path towards self-knowledge. What makes the belief instinct so compelling is its fusion of hard science with human empathy. Bering doesn't simply present research. He tells stories, asks provocative questions, and invites readers to examine their inner worlds. He shows that belief is not a weakness but a natural outcome of how our minds evolved to navigate life, death, and each other. Understanding this instinct is the first step toward mastering it, and perhaps, toward finding a meaning that's no less profound for being invented, rather than bestowed. In sum, Jesse Bering offers a thoughtful, engaging, and often moving account of why belief is such a fundamental part of being human. He shows that even in a secular age, our need for purpose, our fear of death, and our longing for moral structure remain deeply wired into our mental makeup. By making peace with these instincts, rather than denying or blindly obeying them, we can begin to build a more honest and compassionate worldview, one that honors our psychology without being ruled by it.